Howdy, y'all. How y'all doing this evening? Welcome to my Kentucky kitchen. Tonight we're going to make good old buttermilk cornbread. I'm actually going to make some dressing for Christmas, and I'm going to make it up early, stick it in the freezer. That way, that's one more thing I don't have to do for the holidays. So, let's get started. And we like sweet cornbread. If you don't like sweet cornbread, you don't have to put sugar in. I'm going to start with 2 eggs. Normally, I do not measure, but I'll try to get you some measurements just so you kind of know about what I do. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put my eggs and my sugar. I'm going to put about a third. Let's do a quarter of a cup of sugar. That's a third measure, but I didn't fill it up. So we'll do about a quarter of a cup of sugar. All right. And then I use, this is Martha White. Martha White's good, White Lily is good. But this is the Buttermilk cornmeal mix, and it is self-rising, so I know that's 3/4 of a cup, and I'm gonna put, so that's about 1.5 cups, and we like the yellow in ours. Now this is not self-rising, okay, and I'm gonna put, that's 3/4 and just a little bit more. Maybe we'll do a full cup. We'll do a full cup of cornmeal. Now your ratio to cornmeal to flour, and I have self-rising flour. I think this one is White Lily. A little less than half as much flour as what you do cornmeal, okay? So I'm gonna put that in, and that's a 1/2 cup measure. I'm gonna put a little bit more, maybe 3/4 of a cup of flour, and I'm just gonna stir that a little bit before I put my buttermilk in. And I do use buttermilk. It just adds something. You need to preheat your oven. That's probably 3/4 of a cup of buttermilk. You need to preheat your oven to around, say, 400 degrees. And when you turn that oven on, get you a cast iron skillet, whatever size you want. This is a small one. It's not what I'm using. And I always put bacon grease in mine. But if you don't have bacon grease, you can use any kind of oil, any kind of fat, canola. I wouldn't use olive oil because it doesn't bake well. It doesn't have a real high smoke point. But you want to get that skillet good and hot before you put the cornbread in. That will help it. It'll keep it from sticking. Now, some people say, I've heard a lot of people say that they have one cast iron skillet and it's just for cornbread. Because if you don't, it'll stick. I can truly say I haven't had trouble with mine sticking. And I do not have a particular one that's just for cornbread. You know, because sometimes I want a big batch, sometimes I want a small batch. So, I just pick up whichever one I pick up first. Most of the time, it's the one on the top of the pile. And if there's some lumps in it, that's okay, because they're going to bake out. So, this is kind of the consistency you're looking at. Maybe a thick, like a thick cake mix consistency that you're looking for. And like I said, don't worry about those lumps because those lumps will cook out. And if you cook your bread fast, it won't dry out so bad. So I always cook my cornbread, my biscuits, anything like that. I try to cook that fairly fast. Yeast rolls may be a little different. They're a little more temperamental, but and let's check and see if our skillet is ready. Not quite as hot as I'd like it, but it will work. So we're just going to pour it in. You want it hot enough that you actually hear it sizzle. This one didn't, but it still curled on the edges, so it'll be fine. Maybe if you can see if I can get it a little closer. I don't know if you can see where it kind of curls on the edges. So now we just stick this in here and we bake it just till it gets golden brown on the top. I would say maybe 25 minutes. I'd say about 25 minutes. If you live down here in the South, knowing how to make cornbread, knowing how to make biscuits, those things are a staple in most Southern kitchens. I learned my recipe from an older lady. She was just a friend, and she showed me how to make it. And when I came back home, it was right, you know, after you get out of high school, when you move out. I came back home and I made that for my mom at home. And she said from that day forward, Libby is the cornbread maker. And so I always made the cornbread for Mom. She loved my cornbread. And that's a good memory that you keep of your mom. So, but yeah, cornbread is super, super simple. Same amount of the self-rising cornmeal as the yellow cornmeal. And you don't even have to put the yellow cornmeal at all if you don't like your cornbread more yellow. We do. We like the yellow cornmeal. So, and then self-rising on the cornmeal mix and self-rising on your flour. And remember, if you're making for dressing like I am, then it needs to be made the day before. You're going to actually put that together so that it has time to cool and kind of get a little harder. And I always use buttermilk. If I don't have buttermilk, I'll use sweet milk, but if I've got buttermilk, that's what I use. So try making you some sweet cornbread. It's really good. I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you for coming in my kitchen tonight. You guys, I hope that the sun's shining on wherever you are. God bless.